Hi, Lane. How you doing? 66 Dodge Charger. Good job. Really good job. You get it. You're getting it, I think, very well. Um, a couple of things I want to mention here is that, okay, so this piece here, it doesn't really have hierarchy because basically, well, it does. It's right here. This is where the hierarchy goes, only because that's different than the rest. Okay, anytime something is different, the assumption is that the designer wants you to look at that. So yes, that is drawing hierarchy. These are all equal in terms of hierarchy as long as you know that. Of course, this would be a little bit more important from this. Why? Only because it's listed first, and in the United States, we start up or left and read down. So we start up, we read across and down. So that being on the highest on a page indicates that there's some level of importance associated with this that's not associated with the ones that are more towards the bottom of the composition. I think that's pretty intuitive. In your second iteration, you introduced contrast of weight and scale. And well, actually you didn't. In the second, you introduced the contrast of scale. But you haven't used weight and scale. This would be weight and scale. This is only scale. So well, it could be scale or weight. It's different than these. That we know. Okay, but this would be this would be an example of weight and scale. Okay, so if you could, in your final iteration, just delineate that right there, because right now you're only using one contrast and instead of two, and it says you need to introduce one new size and one new weight. Right now you only have one new size. So here in the third, this is where you have the new weight, the new scale, and then you have other elements that you're using to draw attention and establish hierarchy. So this is good. I think this is a very good piece. One piece here I would mention in a couple of your pieces, specifically the last two, is that watch you're really close to a no print zone here. In other words, you really want to establish a good, nice margin, a little buffer zone. It acts almost as a frame without actually being overtly a frame. So it's a really nice way to frame your compositions, is to establish a good consistent outer margin and stick to it. Right now you're too close to the page edges. It's creating a little bit of visual tension. But hierarchy wise, it's great. You definitely want the viewer to look here first. That letter spacing right there, that word spacing, leading right there, it's too great. It's too large. Why is Charger so far away from Dodge? It almost looks like they might not be related. And again, that's what we learned with our leading and our letter spacing and word spacing, is that could be considered two different things. Okay, so that you want to pull a little closer to that. It's called proximity. Keep that in mind. Good establishment of hierarchy using scale and weight here. And then simply by proximity, you're drawing a difference between this information here and this information here. This information here, engine, seems to be a little bit further away. In other words, the leading is further from here than it is here. And that indicates that these two are related, but somehow separate from this. I don't know if that's what you intended, but if you want to do that, don't try to make it look like it's more intentional and less of a mistake. Right now, I can see that, but it almost looks like it could be a mistake. So make sure your decisions are intentional. This piece here I think is great. The only problem I'm having here is that the proximity, the relationship between Dodge Charger and 1966 is really, it's too far away. The fact that these are so far away from each other in the composition is almost suggesting to the viewer that these two things are not related. And these two things are very, very much related, as we can see by the success of these other mini typographic compositions. So I would definitely get that 66 closer to the Dodge Charger. Other than that, I don't think you're really establishing any more hierarchy than you did over here. As a matter of fact, it's the same type. You've copied it and pasted it. Well, almost. This is right aligned, this is left aligned. But other than that, I think that you've used the same kind of trying to force the same kind of hierarchy. So what I would like to see you do here is, instead of trying to make things fit where they otherwise wouldn't, reestablish this layout based on the image and use the image to help you draw through your decisions on alignment, proximity, and placement, and ultimately hierarchy. Okay, just keep doing what you're doing. It's going to come much more natural the second time around, I promise. Just work it hard. Keep an eye on what I've mentioned, specifically grouping, proximity, placement, and weight changes and scale changes. Okay. Oh, take a look at that video in the announcements area. It's at how to design using a grid. It's pretty important, and I think it'll definitely help. I think your hierarchy is good, but right now I think that you're not really paying attention as tightly as I'd like to see to your grid. All right, great job. Any questions? Give me a holler. Thank you.